So I just wanted to say hi and thank you to everybody who can be here. Very excited to this W4M roundtable. This is hosted by Women for Mentors. So today we're going to be talking about physically strong, preventing burnout after life transition. So this is exciting because we all go through stress, we've all experienced fatigue, and all the things that go with it. So life transitions can take a toll on you, both mentally and physically. So we're just here to kind of go over some of the processes and intention and movement and how you can support healing in that. My name is Tiffany Foster. I am the president of Women for Mentors, and I have with me here some of my awesome crew. I have Jenny Overbay and Sharon Lee. Guys, wave. Hi. So we're thrilled to be able to speak with our special guest today, Dr. Leslie Erwin. Hi, Leslie.
Hi.
So just to get everybody caught up and on track. So Women for Mentors, we have this roundtable basically as a foundational arm to build the mentorship side of our program. It's really important to us to support one another, and we want to create a community where we're all lifting each other up and also creating just that community for our scholarship recipients and everything to be a part of and to be able to benefit from. So before we get started, I would just encourage any attendees, if you have any questions, please put them into the chat and we will hopefully get to them as soon as we can. And feel free to stay off camera and stay muted if you're not talking. That just helps our audio. So thank you all for being here. So Leslie, let's get started. Just tell us a little bit about you, your background and what you specialize in and, how you got to where you are.
Okay. I grew up in a small town in Kansas, and I did the traditional route. So I graduated from high school. I went straight to college at UNC at Chapel Hill, where I was in the athletic training program. And I got my bachelor's of science in exercise and sports science. And then right from there, I went to PT school for my doctorate, which was a 3-year graduate program at Elon University.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. So tell us what do you do with that today? Tell us a little bit about your business and what you do with your degree today.
Okay, well, I work as a physical therapist. I've worked in the hospital setting, in the inpatient rehab setting, and most recently in home health. And I have an online business to give information to people who might have questions about how to deal with changes in mobility and how to stay safe at home. Um, Anything really mobility and physical therapy related.
That's awesome. And that's why, I think it's what's I'm really excited about, digging into some of these topics with you about too, is because I feel like you have such a great perspective of getting to also see people like later on in life, the after effects too, of whether you take well care of yourself or whether you, maybe could have done a little bit better, So I'm excited about this. So, in your opinion, so what are some of the most common ways that stress and emotional change can just show up physically in somebody's body?
There's 4 main signs of stress. So one is low energy. You might have a headache. You might have muscle tension, especially in your neck or your shoulders and trigger points. And you're going to want to be more sedentary. You just don't have as much motivation.
Oh, that's so interesting. So like, I know, I personally often when I get stressed out, I feel like headache is definitely one of the things I notice that comes on the quickest for me. And it usually takes me a minute though to pick up on that why it's happening. Because I usually go right to, okay, I need to start taking Tylenol, I need to do whatever to tackle it. So I think that's interesting that's just one of the most common things that happens for people. I mean, obviously everybody's nodding, so I think that we all kind of experience that too. So like what would you say would be, the ways, because like I said, I usually go straight for the medicine cabinet. What are some ways that, you would suggest to combat these stress signs?
You can do some things like relaxation and breathing techniques, meditation. You can do some stretches for your neck and your shoulders just to try to relax those muscles. You can use a tennis ball on the knots and the sore trigger points, and lay on it or lean on it or, rub it. Sustained pressure is what's good for trigger points. So if you can hold it for 30 seconds, a minute, that can help that muscle release. They also make these canes
Okay.
that
Okay.
they're like a hook and a hook,
Oh,
and then they
yes.
have the knobs that come off of it, and you
Yes.
can use that to get into those muscles too.
I've never used that one, but I do have this other type of contraption, and it's the goofiest thing. It costs like $12 on Amazon, but it has almost like little mini tennis balls on it, and it goes around your neck. And it's
Yeah.
supposed to be to massage your neck, but I sometimes just take it and I just let it sit there. And I used to work in an office and I'd bring it in with me and stuff, and all the girls would all steal it from me and borrow it because they were like, this is amazing. So, okay, that's really cool. And it's interesting because it doesn't take a lot. Like you said, tennis balls, there's easy ways to deal with it. Would you say like that's probably the best way is to try to do something physically first to try to address it before, like I said, I usually run for the Tylenol, which is probably
Yeah, I mean,
not.
Tylenol works,
Yeah,
but yeah, to just decrease the stress and let the muscles relax.
yeah. Awesome. Oh, and that just reminds me too, I just want to put a little disclaimer out too that we are having this discussion with Dr. Leslie Erwin, getting her opinions and her advice on all this, but this should never be a substitute whatsoever for actual medical advice and medical help. So everybody's individual. If you have any questions or concern, please consult your own personal medical professional. But awesome. So like, why do to explain it and to summarize it, why is it really important for people to, focus on movement and taking care of themselves when they're having major life transitions?
Oh, because movement does so much for the body. It really does. It increases your energy, it increases your cognitive function, it increases your mental health and your emotional health. It increases your immune system. It helps you sleep better. It decreases stress and can keep you from moving on to burnout. And it can decrease you being so prone to injury.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the thing that I know I personally, as I get older, I keep, getting more aware of that boundary of how much easier I feel like I can have injury now, and it's the things that maybe didn't used to cause me concern. When I used to be made out of rubber and I could just bounce when I fell, I think, now I look at it and I'm like, okay, like that's going to take a lot to recover from if I hurt myself and what have you, where I know I used to push it so hard when I was young and no care or caution, which would lead to things like injury, unfortunately. Um, okay, so like, and I think, one of the things that we want to talk to people about is because we like one of the things we focus a lot in our organization is when people are going through major life transitions, so just, when people are going through this, obviously this brings on stress, and that puts you in a certain mental state where maybe you're not being as thoughtful about what you're doing. But what are some safe ways that people can, get back into physical activity if someone's feeling those things like overwhelmed and emotionally drained, and they're not in the sharpest, mental state? How can they ease into that physical activity?
Um, Walk. So, and add more activity just as a routine into your daily life. So, whether that is having a certain time during the day where, okay, this is when I'm going to go for a walk or I'm going to exercise. You can have a friend go with you. It's
Mm-hmm.
always easier to start an exercise routine if you have accountability and someone is there to help you stick to it.
Yeah.
But just
Yeah.
start small. You don't have to just run out and spend 2 hours in the gym and lift all the heavy weights. You can just go for a walk or, do movement without weight at first, just anything to get you moving.
I think that's and this is a great, I feel like for me, I'm already like, this is such a great reminder because I know years ago I was going through a tough time in life and I tried, that was my way of coping with the stress was dealing with physical activity. And so like anytime I had to like wait doing anything, I would just go walk, if I was waiting, even at a doctor's office or something like that. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go, pace around and stuff like that just to be moving. And I just took every opportunity and I've gotten so out of the habit of it that this is a great reminder for me. I'm like, okay, I need to get back to that place of just thinking of, what can you do? Even when you're driving down the road, you know what I mean? Like how can you just kind of do like subtle things, just to kind of pump your legs while you're driving or whatever,
Yeah. Do butt squeezes.
Butt squeezes, yes. Yes. I do
Do
those often. Like nobody
shoulders.
knows. How would they know? Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So I mean, you gave us some really good ideas of how to start already. What are like your go-to, like your personal go-to, for somebody to just regain physical strength without them overdoing it? Like, do you have like kind of like those go-to routines or anything that you think are good practice or things that you enjoy doing?
I like to walk and I like to hike. So that's what I do. And to be outside, I think gives you that mental and emotional kick too.
Mhm.
But just start small and you can add things in. So you're doing laundry and you're bending down to get the clothes out of the dryer, make that a squat,
Ooh, I love
or
that. Oh, I've never thought of doing that. That I'm stealing. I'm doing that.
or you're putting things up in the cabinet, do
Yeah.
a heel raise,
Oh,
so
yes.
you can add
Yeah.
things in.
I think
Mhm.
that's so wonderful. I love that. I've never thought of it when you're doing those mundane things, and just making it something, good for yourself. Because it is interesting. I mean, like the best times in life I know I've ever felt is when I'm usually as physically active as I possibly can be. And it's not always when you're overdoing it. Because I know in my early 30s, I had an accident where I ended up with a fracture because I overdid it, and it was like, I was like, oh, I'm going to do all this and do all this really hard. And I'm going to hit exercising really hard. And I'm going to be so fit in 2 weeks, and then I ended up in physical therapy for 6 months. So, wow. Okay. So I love this. These are great tips. Um, so you mentioned too like doing some breath work and stuff like that, meditation,
Mhm.
and this is all what, so like, do you think that it's important to kind of recognize, like to look out for those kind of early signs of feeling stress and stuff like that, to start approaching it in this way and doing these things, incorporating these in your life ahead of time?
Oh, yeah. I think prevention is great. If
Yeah.
there's anything you can do to, slow down your thoughts or slow down your breathing or relax your muscles and, keep your body strong before something happens.
Yeah. Well, because it's like, then it's like, because it can go the other way, right? Where then it's like, it can turn into burnout. And could you kind of explain and walk us through a little bit? What are the differences between, just normal stress and when somebody's actually experiencing burnout?
Yeah. So burnout is like a more severe form of stress. You still have low energy, but you have exhaustion and severe fatigue. Um, you're more prone to injury. You might have pain in your muscles or in your joints, and you will see it in your mental health.
So it goes from it being kind of like up here to where your body is physically reacting in stronger ways to it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So so what, like, are there any early signs of burnout that people should watch out for? Because like even if somebody's doing their best, right? Because sometimes we all can have this happen. Sometimes we just have different seasons in life where there might be more things kind of coming against us, like a little bit of a tidal wave, and it's no matter what you do, and no matter how many good things you do and stuff like that. Sometimes it's just what happens. And it's just, we all have experienced different times where we feel like, oh, I can't get a break. So are there any like signs that people just really shouldn't ignore, that they're kind of, going in that burnout direction?
Yeah, I think it's the exhaustion and the pain, muscle tension with the big trigger points and feeling like you can't let your mind relax.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. So it's more like when you try doing these other things, you try going for a walk, you try doing these other things to try to bring yourself to calm down, but you can't. Okay. So
Yeah.
how can someone distinguish between just needing rest and also needing movement? How can they kind of like understand the difference, to find that balance?
Yeah. So I I'm a big fan of movement for just about everything.
Okay.
I feel like in most cases, even if it's what they call active rest, that doing a little bit, it might be a slow walk or, just getting up and trying to move or some gentle, just range of motion stuff,
Mhm.
stretching out your back, moving your neck, just something. The only times that you really want to rest is if you are in that severe burnout. If you have just come out of a very stressful situation and your body just needs that to zone out
Yeah.
and just sit and do nothing, or if you have an acute injury. So if you do get injured, you need to rest it
Okay.
for, you know, 3 to 5 days, depending on how the injury is. But with the injury, while you're resting that part, you can still move other parts because you still
Yeah.
want to keep your circulation going. You still, want to get that movement
And I feel
for the
there's
rest of your
so many
body.
ways that's it's just, there's some people, right, that like they can't rest, like I've known people like this where it's like no matter what, and that's torture, like asking them to sit still and just let their body heal is just you might as well be trying to like beat them. And then then there's other people that you don't always think of doing those little things to try to make sure everything else is going to function, and then you end up kind of overcompensating. And I've seen this, had so many friends and family and stuff dealing with this too, where then they're trying to recover and get strength back in whatever they injured, but now the rest of their body is all out of whack, and they're dealing with all sorts of other problems now because their body's now trying to compensate in a different way. And so, actually, interestingly enough, Ginny, I know, has some questions for you around this too, because she actually, not that long ago, recovered from a surgery while working, being Superwoman. And so, I think she could speak a little bit more on that. And I know you guys spoke a little bit during that time too. You were able to give her some wisdom and knowledge. So I'll turn it over to Ginny for those.
Yeah. Yeah, I spoke with Leslie last year because, I was kind of facing that decision of I'd already been doing physical therapy and I'm an avid lover of physical therapy. I believe in it. I've had to do it many times in my life and like it really, really works. But sometimes you get to that point where you have to decide, okay, it might be time to consider surgery. It might be time to just stick with PT for a while. And I was kind of at that point, and Leslie helped me kind of think through some of my options. Ultimately, I did have surgery on my hip, and that meant that for 6 weeks I couldn't walk. And I not only could I not walk, I couldn't even sit up fully upright. I couldn't sit at 90 degrees or anything like that. So it was a difficult recovery, very difficult recovery. Meanwhile, I did still have to go to physical therapy while in that position of not walking and sitting up. So that was very interesting. And then I have a desk job. So I had to figure out how to still be able to use my computer. Luckily, I work from home, but sitting up and using a computer isn't that easy when you can't actually sit up or regular chair is difficult. So, physical therapy definitely helped a ton, but kind of like we were just saying, even with that, I was so limited that it wasn't just, oh, this hip is weak or this leg is weak. Kind of everything together got weaker because like it was just so difficult to get around it all. So when you're thinking about it sort of big picture, you're trying to recover from something, or even if it's not necessarily recovering from something big like a surgery, but let's say you just have not really exercised or done very much movement in a long time, and you have something like a desk job. So you think it's easier physically because you're sitting, but actually sitting is really difficult. It's strangely difficult compared to a job maybe where you're standing and walking around. So for someone who is kind of gaining their strength back or is trying to just now start to move again, but then also has this desk job that they are supposed to be sitting at. Granted, we have standing desks now, which is really great. But for people like that, what are some ways that they can kind of work that in if they're kind of chained to a desk for 8 or 9 hours a day?
Yeah. So, if you are able to move, you want to get up or change position every 30 minutes to an hour. Um, get up, walk around, move, sit in a different chair in a different position, kind of get your body moving. If that's hard to do and you are stuck in one position, do ankle pumps if you can. You can sit and like kick out your leg to straighten your knee. Um, if it's not your hip, you can do marches, butt squeezes, trying to extend, move your arms, raise them up and down, just anything to get some movement and that blood circulating.
Mhm.
I've seen a lot
So
of people with too. I just wanted to add really quick. I've seen a lot of, and I know Jenny, you have one too. Is one of those treadmills for under the desk too. Which I mean, that was hard. You couldn't use that while you were recovering from surgery. But just wanted to throw that out there.
but I do have it.
Yeah, yeah, you have
Love
it.
that.
Yeah.
It's very helpful. Obviously, you're moving a lot more when you have something like a standing desk, or
Yeah.
if you have a treadmill that you can put under your desk, or even just they make like these small little, not quite bicycles, but it's just more like pedals. There's so many things now that exist for people specifically. Like if you're sitting at a desk, you can still move. But something I did notice for sure is that, especially on those days when I'm like feeling kind of drained and I'm working and I'm tired, that if I do stand for a while or get the treadmill out, that, like you said, I get more energy, but then it does seem like my brain sort of follows suit and I start thinking a little bit more clearly. And it seems like I start activating that and ultimately seem to be more productive at my job, even just by moving.
Yes. Exercise does release chemicals into your body that help with um, motivation. They help with attention, helps with emotional response, as well as other things like the immune system and pain relief. And it decreases cortisol, which is your stress hormone. So,
Mhm. Makes it a little easier too to deal with, coworkers or clients who might be getting on your nerves. That can kind of, you start getting your anxiety raised a little bit, and then you walk a little. Suddenly, you're maybe not as mad.
yes.
So I would ask too, for especially women who, you get really busy. And let's say you have kids and you're running around, taking them places all the time, you're working full time, you're just really busy. It's very easy to then, you have to give up something because you don't have that much time. And it's very easy for exercise to be that thing. So when you're trying to get back into the swing of things, I know you've said, you can move just a little bit, um, kind of ease back into it. Are there there might be kind of a struggle. Maybe she feels like this is really difficult to get back into. I'm not making any progress, or, all those usual things we think. Do you have any other tips, or it could be physically or even maybe some emotional things that they could work on to help them kind of feel like they can reconnect with their body and start moving again.
Yeah, I like the accountability with the friend, or set a play date with your kids. I have this much time. We're going to play tag or we're going to do something active. Um, Also, make it something fun. So if it's something you enjoy doing, it's not as much of a chore. So if you like to hike or if you like to swim or if there's a sport you like to play, make that your activity for the day.
That's true. So it's more enjoyable. It's not
Yeah.
just, oh, I'm working, I have to do this for 30 minutes, but it's something you actually like doing.
Yeah.
We got a really great question in the chat that I want to add in here. So thinking about as we get older in menopause, I think we're all thinking it's this looming specter that we've got to look forward to. So how does that fit in with all of this? Because I know a lot of things change in a lot of ways. So how does that kind of fit in to continuing to try and move and stress levels and things like that?
Well, menopause is known for gaining weight, for messing with your memory and your cognitive function, and for having low energy and poor sleep. And exercise works on all those things.
Mhm.
So if you can just, add more activity into your life, um, hopefully it'll help as
And
you go
I
into.
think that's a great question too, Robin. And I do want to say is that's something actually too. Like I want to have a whole entire segment on menopause because honestly, it's on my mind, and I'm like, I know that I'm like everybody else going like, what on earth are you supposed to do with this? Because I think that plays into some of the stuff that we're talking about too, which is how do you reconnect with your body when you're starting to like not feel fully like yourself too, you know what I mean? And I mean or you have foggy brain and you're maybe feeling a little grumpier or what I mean? I'm not speaking from experience, I'm just saying but I think it's an interesting thing to like, how do you juggle all this? Because it feels like, I mean, I will say personally, it feels like, walking around with these bodies, like we've already had to do so much to get here and to get them here. And then it's like, okay, now it's like it's a new circus on how to juggle. So, but it's interesting is I feel like this is the thing I keep getting to. And I know lately I don't fully feel motivated necessarily to exercise. But I know, like, Leslie, you're my walking partner and buddy and my accountability partner. And sometimes, we kind of fall out of it and sometimes we get in it. But it does help because it's like when somebody's waiting for you to show up, it's like, okay, I got to go do this. It's much easier to talk yourself out of it when it's just yourself and you're like, well, it might rain later this afternoon. So I just won't. That's interesting.
But the more you exercise, the
Yeah.
more energy and motivation you have.
Yeah.
So the starting is difficult, but
Yeah.
once you get into it and make it a routine where you're forcing yourself at first, but you're consistently doing it, it will get easier to continue to do it. Plus, you'll feel better, so you'll want to.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I can think back to like there was a period of time where, like I said, like exercise was kind of it was in a healthy way, my crutch for dealing with the stresses I was facing in life. And I know that the more I did, because I did all the little things like that you're suggesting. I've just gotten out of the habit, unfortunately, but like I did all those little things like where I walked when I could, you know what I mean? Like, and I still have some of the habits today. Like I know I typically will park further away when I am in a parking lot from the building because I'm like, well, I'll walk. It also prevents, FYI, just getting dinged and stuff via car with car doors. So it's a twofold, it's a win-win. But even like little things like that, just to kind of make sure that, getting those extra steps in and stuff. But I know that, I eventually craved it, where it was like, okay, I need to, like, I want to keep moving. Like, I'm excited about it, where it's like, it's that slippery slope to get over. It's like when you don't feel like that and you're feeling the stress come against you, which kind of keeps telling you, well, you could just go lay down, like you don't need to go do something. So it's interesting because it's like, I think incorporating these little tiny things, like I never thought of when I bend over to pick up my laundry to turn that into a squat, like that's wonderful. I mean, and I think there's so many other things we could do that with. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's like, what else I could do and turn into an exercise routine that I've never thought of before. Like I'm going to start doing this throughout my day, going, what could I do different? Just to make those changes. So like, if you were going to say like, there's like one small thing that you would say for anybody here that's just wanting to feel stronger and more grounded, just like one thing that they would just start doing, what would you say that should be?
I don't know that it's a small thing, but if
Yeah.
you can set a specific time in your day
Yeah.
to do something active, just, really try to focus on adding that, which I know is hard because we're all so busy and we have a million things, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a lot of time. Like the CDC recommends 150 minutes a week of moderate exercise. Doesn't have to all be done at one time. You
Okay.
can break it up. It can be, like 10 or 15 minutes in the morning and 10 or 15 minutes in the afternoon. However, whatever works with your schedule, but it doesn't have to be a big block of time altogether.
Yeah, I love that because I think sometimes, we all get fed infomercials and all this stuff, and we think, oh my gosh, we have to do all this to be, at this level and stuff. And it's really just about doing something, right? Just keeping going, keeping moving. I used to have Ginny had this instructor too, but he used to always say that sitting is the new smoking. And so it's unfortunately the sedentary life, a lot of our jobs are at home behind computers, a lot of, and so we're less active than ever before. So I think there's a really good tips and stuff on how to just be mobile and try to like be a little healthier for it, because no one wants to have to face, unfortunately, burnout, which is a real result that can happen, and that fatigue. Because I mean, I would assume too, and you can obviously attest to this, whether this is true or not, but that would lead to more result in possible injury and other struggles, and I'm sure later in life too, that would probably carry over.
Yeah.
Can I ask a
Well,
question?
Oh yeah.
yeah.
It'd be okay. So I jokingly in the chat had said, "What are you talking about, medicine cabinet? Like, how about chocolate, right?" But the reality is, when I'm overstressed, it usually means I am so starved for time. So the thought of going for a hike or a walk is not even a reality, even though I know that that would probably be the better thing for me. But I also just jokingly was thinking, like, how many like pulls on the refrigerator door could turn into a workout, because
Yes.
you seem to always have time to go to the refrigerator or the pantry.
Yeah.
So I say that stuff in jest, but it truly is, if that is you, when you find that you are emotionally eating, or you need that glass of wine as an emotional like relax or whatever, what would you say is that mental shift, and maybe give even some things that are food wise that are better for your body, that so can we bring nutrition into this conversation, I guess is what this is boiling down to.
Well,
So that is out of my scope of practice.
Okay.
But I can say, you want to keep yourself hydrated. If you can drink water, not
Right.
like tea or Coke or wine, because
Right.
those
yeah.
are more diuretics. But if
Mhm.
you can drink, something that will hydrate you, and fruits and vegetables are great, and protein is good.
Protein. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
sure.
I think yeah, it's obviously I mean, any one of us can say, obviously nutrition and exercise go kind of hand in hand. I always tell, like, something I tell the kids too is, like, this is how you fuel your body, like how you take care of it, and I look at it like most of us probably could look at how we treat our cars and go, oh, we might treat our cars better sometimes than we treat ourselves, like I love to have my car all vacuumed and cleaned, and I go take it regularly to get the oil changed, and what I mean? Like, and it's like, well, I think we have to also treat this equipment that we have, as such, and treat it like we want it to have longevity and be able to work for us. So I think it's a good reminder for me, I know personally, because I'm like, I always struggle with this. And over the years, I get very squirrely and I get out of the practice of exercising and prioritizing. And like I said, over the years, it's backfired for me, where then I go back into it and I'm like, I'm going to hit it so hard. Like I'm still 20 and like I haven't had children, and then, I've unfortunately suffered the consequences of that, and so I think it's such an important reminder that we all just kind of check in with ourselves and realize that it's not, and I love what you gave for tips, because it's like, it doesn't have to be huge. Just do something little, like you said, 10 minutes. And it's like, that could be, think about all the things you could do throughout the day, how many squats, how many butt clenches you could do in 10 minutes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Driving to wherever you're going,
While you're waiting for dinner to cook.
Yeah.
I'm
You're standing at the
having
stove.
I'm having some flashbacks, some memories to, I don't know if you guys remember this, but like, especially when we were younger, our moms, they would want to exercise, and this was a time when you didn't necessarily have dumbbells and things at home, and they were like, you just get cans of soup and you curl them, like very simple things. Because I think now we go too far the other way, where we're like, we need all the equipment, and I need 3 different exercise bands of different resistance and all these dumbbells. But honestly, or a bottle of water, can of beans, whatever. Very, very simple things that you can integrate that we just, I think, forget that we have that ability.
Yeah, I think there's been so many different styles of exercise over the years that we almost feel like we have to commit to one of them to be like, to feel like we actually did something, like, oh, you have to do, yoga, Pilates, you have to do, I don't care what it is. What's the one where they lift the big giant weights and stuff like that?
CrossFit. I got to do CrossFit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes you feel, I think, like you have to commit to some sort of regiment, where, yeah, I think keeping it simple, I think that's the key to everything, like just do what you can, because I think the whole point is like, we all have a lot on our plates, and we all want to be the most successful that we can be. We want to have the clearest mind and everything. And that's, I think the core of it comes down to is obviously nutrition and exercise, but like, how do we get there so we don't go too far, get burnout, get the injury, and have to struggle? Because like, I'm sure Jenny, you could say too, it's like, and you had to have that surgery, but I was there with you too. And it was not an easy road either and stuff. And so that's, it's a hard thing to have to try to recover through while you're trying to juggle the rest of life, and work. Well, awesome. Well, I appreciate it like so much. Honestly, I think it's just, I feel like for me, this is good reminders just to start moving again and just treat the daily things that I do like I need to approach it just a little different instead of just going through the motions, like you said, Sharon, maybe opening up the fridge a little different, like treating the things, treating the basic movements that we're doing with more intention, I think is really great advice. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Leslie Erwin, for being with us and for walking us through this. Before we close, though, I just wanted to talk to you and open this up for you. If anybody wants to connect with you, I know if they ever want to, find out more information from you, or find out more about my rehab answers, if you want to let people know how they could do that.
Yeah, you can visit our website, myrehabanswers.com, or you can email questions, mobility questions you might have, to questions@myrehabanswers.com.
Awesome. So I would encourage, anybody to connect with our guest. I just want to say a special thank you as well to all of our sponsors that we have. You can find them on womenformentors.com/donate. And find out who they are. We appreciate it, because without them, we can't do this. And if anybody ever wants to sponsor a W4M roundtable in the future, you can also connect with us about that. If you haven't already, please follow Women for Mentors on LinkedIn and stay connected for our future events and opportunities. And if you know somebody who has an inspirational journey or message to share, please reach out to me directly and let me know, because we'd love to hear from you for any upcoming roundtables. Also, too, just a note, our Women for Mentors Scholarship is coming towards a close for the season for fall of 2025. So if anybody has any questions about that or interest in that, or knows somebody who would benefit from that, please share with them. You can find that on our website. And also, if anybody would like to support us in our mission and what we're trying to do, please reach out to us. We would love to connect with you. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here.